Matt Eberflus had lost his football team. That may have happened in Indianapolis. That may have happened in training camp. Who knows when? Right after hard knocks, things started going south, Gabe. But I do think that if you are the Bears organization and you've never done something like this before, you wanted to try to wait until the last moment you felt like you reached the point of no return. And what happened in the mismatch in Motown, that was the point of no return. You could not tolerate that again. So I understand what you're saying, but this is better late than never, perhaps, in that context. And you just couldn't go one day forward with expecting anybody to believe in your brand, to believe in your direction if you brought him back to preside over another game. He should not have presided over another press conference. That was embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
That's shameful for the Bears. If they want to manage the message and they want to polish the image of this franchise, they did a lousy job this morning, because that was sending somebody out there that didn't deserve to be out there. You can say many things about Matt Eberflus, the coach, and you'd be right. But Matt Eberflus is a decent guy that deserved better this morning.
Allowing him to come out there was awkward, especially because of the debacle that took place prior to the link being sent out for the interview. What did you think about, obviously the Bears sent out a press release. In it, Ryan Poles said that this morning he had a meeting with George McCaskey and Kevin Warren. Obviously, with the history of the franchise as it sits, never firing a coach in the middle of the season, what do you think that conversation was like with George? Because clearly it was different than any other conversation that had been had in those walls.
The glib answer? It was awkward, because every conversation with George McCaskey is a little awkward. So I can't imagine that he walked into the room and said, all right, this is the way it's going to go. You're going to do this. We're going to do that. Right. This is the vision that I have for this franchise. Because you know what? Since 2011, when George McCaskey became the chairman of the Chicago Bears, the vision has been cloudy, and it's been very unclear. And they've been running in circles. They could put a treadmill in the middle of Hallis Hall to represent where they have been headed the last 11 years or 13 years, however long it's been. It's been too long. They're running in place. They're not going anywhere.
Was Coach Eberflus the wrong coach to bring in a couple of years ago? Because I think about the roster where it wasn't prepared to compete, so they needed someone.
Yes, he was.
He's the right guy, right?
No, he was the wrong guy.
He was the wrong guy.
He was the wrong guy, Gabe. He was the wrong guy. You had to talk yourself into liking what this represented. You had to talk yourself into Matt Eberflus. How many people Googled his name on the day he was introduced at Hallis Hall?
I was one of them for sure.
Okay. How do you say his name? Did you know before he got here?
Eberflus, like they said yesterday on the broadcast.
And that's being sort of flippant, but you know what? He wasn't an established, experienced NFL head coach. You had too many questions. You were at the point in your franchise where you had a need for change at the front office. You want to give a 36-year-old Ryan Poles a chance to build a roster as the first-time general manager? I could understand that. But if you are going to do that, don't hire somebody else who doesn't know what he's doing on the job and doing it for the first time.
But we see it happen so often in basketball, in baseball, where a Vinny Del Negro or a Rossi is brought in to kind of hold down the team in the interim.
How those examples
That's
go?
My point, though.
How'd that turn out?
So maybe
Gabe?
he was the right guy.
You've been here long enough to know. Okay. This was a bad idea. And this was something that they needed to cut their losses. Ryan Poles in that statement, quote, I thank Matt for his hard work, professionalism, and dedication to our organization. We extend our gratitude, et cetera, et cetera. Kevin Warren, I support Ryan and the decision that was made this morning. We understand how imperative this head coaching role is for building and maintaining a championship caliber team, leading our players in our organization, et cetera, et cetera. I would say that the only thing I would edit out of that statement, or maybe look at it differently, Kevin Warren really is saying this, quote, I support Ryan and the decision that was made for him this morning.
Okay, because that was going to be my follow-up. Who was the loudest voice in the room? Was it Kevin Warren or was it Ryan Poles?
If it was Ryan Poles, I think we might have heard more from him. I know that his silence has been interpreted as being a show of no support for his head coach, but I just am skeptical that the guy that hired Matt Eberflus was going to be the one who fired him mid-season. I think that he would have leaned on, and this is purely speculative, and talking to people around the building perhaps, but I think Ryan Poles believed in Matt Eberflus and that they were aligned philosophically, and he might have viewed the firing of Matt Eberflus as something that would question his own football,
as a Velus Jones moment, as one of those moments where it's like, I can't let go of this guy because I still have belief in him because I picked him.
Now, from the outside looking in, this is the way I look at what happened this morning and really this next phase. Kevin Warren is the thing that is different about this equation. When you talk about the Bears never having fired a head coach in season, all of those examples have never included Kevin Warren. He's the new guy here. When he came, he promised change and a new way of looking at things. And when he talks about the stadium project, he speaks in grandiose terms, and God kissed the lakefront, and he quotes Daniel Burnham, and he says, make no small plans. If Kevin Warren, if his fingerprints aren't all over this move today, over the coaching search, I would be surprised. He's visible in the building. He's visible in the football portion of the building. And my sense is that he will be very visible, at least behind the scenes. Can you be visible behind the scenes?
Yeah.
He will be impactful behind the scenes.
Your presence.
The president will have a presence because he is here to shape the future of the Chicago Bears on and off the field in his mind. You can quibble with that, but in his mind, you don't get to where he's gotten, and you don't operate the way that he operates without thinking that you are going to have an impact on the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. So I do think this is his show, and I think that Ryan Poles may be the leading actor in it, playing the lead, but I do think that Kevin Warren clearly, to me, is the director.
I think he's a guy that's been around football long enough and understands what a winning organization should look like, whether he's been a part of one in Minnesota or trying to come here to Chicago to turn them into said organization. I think he will have a hand, obviously a large one, in figuring out the next head coach. I wonder, with the promotion of Thomas Brown, what his vision for a head coach for the Chicago Bears, what does that look like with Caleb Williams? Is it, again, someone that is inexperienced, or not inexperienced, but someone has no experience as a head coach, that is an experienced play caller? Or is it someone like a Kevin Warren that's been around the league for a long time and understands how to hire an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator to make the organization run at a high level?
Well, that's a great question. It's one of the many things that you're going to have to be addressed, and this will be a source of conversation because Thomas Brown, the other part of the news, if you didn't hear it, is now the interim head coach for the remainder of the season. So he will be the head coach. Will he still call plays? How will that job, duties will be divided? That'll be something we, break down and talk about and overanalyze, frankly, because I think we're going to overstate the importance of Thomas Brown in this phase. I don't want to be disrespectful.
Is his most important job to right the ship or to continue to have Caleb Williams progress?
What's the calendar say? What's today?
It's November 29th.
November 29th. Okay. When's the last game? Alex Kuhn, when's the last game against the Packers? January what?
2nd, probably, I think.
Get the Bears to the final game.
Okay.
Period. Is Thomas Brown a viable candidate moving forward? Talk to me then.
5th.
January 5th, 5:30, whatever, after they play the Packers at Lambeau. That game's not getting flexed. Don't even think about that. Okay? That will be the time when I'll tell you whether or not I believe Thomas Brown is in play or not. Right now, it's interesting but irrelevant. It's unlikely that he will be. I love the comparisons to Mike Tomlin, but I think that's overstating and maybe a little bit hyperbole. He has a good connection with Caleb Williams. If he can help Caleb Williams get from point B to point C, which is now to January 5th, terrific, because that's all that matters about any on-field development as you move forward.
Will Caleb Williams' voice be listened to? Because what if he falls in love with Thomas Brown?
You got to strike a balance here, because you want your franchise quarterback, who was the de facto CEO the moment that he walked into the building. We say that all the time, and I believe that. You've got to make him feel like he does have input. You've got to make him feel like his opinions do matter, because they do to some degree. But if he's in love with a guy that is not as qualified as the guy that would make a difference, or your professional experience tells you can afford, you can hire, and you can count on to make an impact and change the direction of this franchise, your quarterback's voice is not going to be as loud as you're suggesting it will be.
And it shouldn't be.
And it shouldn't be. Let him worry about the cadence at the line of scrimmage. Let him be a leader in the locker room. His voice, though, should not carry that far when you're talking about who to hire as your head coach. Because what if he's 23 years old? Let's be fair here. It's not fair to Caleb Williams to put him in that situation.
To make that decision or to have that weight.
You're the adult in the room. He's a young adult. If you are Kevin Warren, if you are Ryan Poles, and I hope they don't hire some former executive that is now taking a golden parachute into Haugh to get paid to be a consultant. You don't need them.
No.
Don't get them. You want to hire a consultant? Olin Kreutz is available. Tom Thayer is available. They'll work for $15 an hour, maybe. No, wait, Olin won't, right?
Got a couple text messages about that one already today.
But you know what I mean?
Yes.
Don't go to the Bill Polian and Ernie Accorsi, guys who have never worked at Haugh or lived in Chicago or understand the dynamic between the fans and the team and the franchise and how dysfunctional this whole mess is. You need somebody who knows where the bodies are buried and knows what the warts and all. And they look at what is happening and they can offer some strong advice because they need it.
It's frustrating because this is the broken record playing. Every time there's an opening as for the head coach with the Chicago Bears, we preach the same thing. Bring in someone, do this. And then for whatever reason, the Bears fall short of that. Why will it be different this time around?
Gabe, that's a great question, but here's why it will be different this time around. First of all, I have no guarantee that it will be different this time around. Let me just start there.
Damn.
Okay. But if you're doing it, you always believe it will be different this time around. These are football people. These are sports people. When you are committing your life to sports, you believe in the power of optimism. And you think that even though and you have a bit of ego involved here too. Let's face it. Kevin Warren, nobody has to talk to him. You talk to him for more than 10 minutes and you don't realize how much. I mean, look, he's a confident man and his ego is unmistakable. And but I also think that he's somebody who has earned that.
Mm-hmm.
He has a presence about him. You think he thinks that he's going to go into this and he can't change the future? He wants to make history. Caleb Williams, what did he say the first day as a Bear? I want to make history. The guys who do this well, the guys who are involved, they want to make history. They don't care about John Fox, Mark Trestman, Phil Emery. These are all George McCaskey mistakes, by the way.
They weren't brought here to do that, to bring in those types of. He wasn't brought in to bring in those types of people.
No. And they don't think, I mean, Kevin Warren as team president never would have hired Matt Eberflus because Matt Eberflus, as a nice guy, does not have the gravitas that I think that you're looking for in your next Bears head coach. And I do think that it matters. And I do think that when you get in front of a room of people who play football for a living, how you connect and communicate with them, the charisma that you bring into that room matters. It matters more than it does in many sports. Football is a violent collision sport. And football is full of guys who are tough-minded individuals. You've got to connect some way. Shane Waldron couldn't. He was gone. Matt Eberflus did for a while, but his hesitation in big moments and his inability to make big decisions on the fly, it hurt him in being able to earn the respect of players he was coaching. So even though he might be a good guy we love Flusy when he's calling and pushing the right buttons and calling the right blitzes, but when they see him struggle communicating publicly, which was his biggest bugaboo as a head coach, that's weakening. That's weakening his reputation, that weakens his reach, and it makes him more vulnerable as a head coach in a market like Chicago. So he didn't have a chance.
Yeah, unfortunate. I think that it's just so shocking that the Bears got it so wrong after drafting Caleb Williams. You knew,
and yet you've been here all your life, Gabe. You should not have been as shocked as you sound.
Well, because I, like Kevin Warren, thought we were headed in a different direction. Because I am optimistic the way you said.
I love
every single year.
Gabe, you're exactly right, and you know what I'm talking about. I mean, so you think that even though you've been burnt before, you are Charlie Brown, and you think this time you're going to kick that field goal, and the ball's not going to be pulled out. Lucy's not going to do that to you. Lucy's about to do that to you again. But I want you to continue to think you're going to make the field goal.
Yeah.
Because that's a great thing about sports. So right now, as you sit here, people are relieved and maybe even overjoyed that Matt Eberflus has been fired. I don't think you should take glee in somebody else's unemployment, even though it was the right move. You understand the realities. But you believe somewhere there's a part of you, even as cynical as you are, the most cynical person think of is a Bears fan. You got to believe that they're going to get it right this time.
Bears by 6 on Sunday against the 49ers.
You know what? That would be great. Beat the 49ers, have them unravel, and have them fire Kyle Shanahan,
Yes.
and bring the